With the authority of the Council, I shall now confer degrees of Doctor of the University. I call upon the Vice-Chancellor to make the first presentation.
Mr. Chancellor, the Council of the University has resolved to award the degree of Doctor of the University to Mr. Barry Humphries, AO. Mr. Chancellor, born in Melbourne in 1934, Barry Humphries was educated at the Melbourne Grammar School and later at Melbourne University. Although he did not take a degree, he began to participate in student theatre. His ambition, however, was to become a painter. After writing and performing songs and sketches in university reviews, he was asked to join the newly formed professional repertory company based on campus, later to become known as the Melbourne Theatre Company. In 1956, he created the character of Mrs. Everage, a Melbourne housewife who has subsequently become internationally celebrated. Soon after, he also invented her desiccated male counterpart, Alexander Sandystone, whose rambling monologues continue to celebrate the decent suburban life of bygone Melbourne. Moving to Sydney, he joined the Phillip Street Revue Theatre, a famous and successful institution which presented sophisticated comedy. After an 18-month engagement, Barry returned to Melbourne, where he appeared as Estragon in Australia's first production of Beckett's Waiting for Godot with Peter O'Shaughnessy. They later collaborated on a children's pantomime and a highly successful revue starring Edna and Sandy. Barry left for London in 1959. During the 1960s, he appeared in numerous West End productions, notably musicals for Lionel Bart, Oliver and Maggie Way, and stage and radio entertainments by his friend Spike Milligan, in particular Red Sitting Room. He also worked in productions with Joan Littlewood, played Long John Silver at the Mermaid Theatre and Fagin on Broadway, and in a major revival of Oliver at the Piccadilly Theatre in 1968. During this decade, he returned on 3 occasions to Australia with a new one-man play. It was the last of these, Just a Show, which the impresario Peter Bridge invited him to present at the Fortune Theatre, London in 1969. This polarised British critics, as had an earlier performance at Peter Cook's Establishment Club. But it led to a pioneering comedy series on the BBC, The Barry Humphries Scandals, a show which inspired Monty Python. In the early 1970s, with his friend, the director Bruce Beresford, Humphries brought to the screen the character of Barry Mackenzie, the legendary comic strip hero, 60s cult figure and progenitor of Crocodile Dundee, whom, with the artist Nicholas Garland, he had originally created in Private Eye magazine. In the mid-70s, Barry starred at the Apollo Theatre London in Housewife Superstar. By this time, the West End had caught up with Melbourne. Subsequently, Humphries has presented London with 4 more theatrical offerings: A Night with Dame Edna at the Piccadilly Theatre in 1979, for which he won the Society of West End Theatres Award for Best Comedy of the Year, and An Evening's Intercourse at the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane in 1989. In 1983, he performed The Song of Australia, a profane cantata, co-written and performed with Carl Davies with orchestra and large chorus at the Royal Albert Hall. In all, he has written and performed in 12 one-man plays. Numerous television appearances in Australia and the UK include two highly successful series of his chat show, The Dame Edna Experience, for London Weekend Television, with a host of megastar guests including Liza Minnelli, Jane Fonda, Sean Connery and Kim Basinger. These popular shows have since been repeated all over Europe and North America and have included Dame Edna specials. Other television appearances include Another Audience with Dame Edna, and numerous guest appearances on popular shows. A tribute to Barry's work entitled A Profile of Barry Humphries received a British Academy of Film and Television Arts Award nomination for Best Arts Program. More recently, Barry has been seen as Sandy Stone for BBC One in its highly acclaimed series Single Voices. He now makes TV programs in the USA. He is also the author of several popular books and a collection of poems. His autobiography, More Please, won the J.R. Ackley Prize in 1993 for the year's best biography. He is the subject of 2 biographical studies by John Lahr and Peter Coleman. His most popular records include Song of Australia, 12 Inches of Les, The Sound of Edna, The Dame Edna Party Experience, Housewife Superstar, and The Moonee Ponds Muse. In 1982, Barry was appointed an Officer of the Order of Australia for service to the arts. He has only once received a government grant, small we are assured. His shows are subsidised by his public. 25 years ago, Barry's father, Eric, was overheard to say in a voice reminiscent of Sandy Stone, I was so worried about Barry, I couldn't play golf on Tuesday. Although Barry's father is now deceased, I'm sure that he, like all of us, would be proud not just of Barry's great contribution to literature and letters, but his fine personal example as a citizen of the world and an extraordinarily creative human being. Chancellor, it is with great pleasure that I present to you Barry Humphries for admission to the degree of Doctor of the University.
I now call upon Barry Humphries, Doctor of the University, to deliver an occasional address.
Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, graduates, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honour for me to be here on stage in Brisbane for the first time. Some of my friends have frequently performed here. Not quite knowing what an occasional address was, I decided last night to write a short poem on the subject about which I know most, myself. How brave of Griffith to bestow tonight on me this great and awesome accolade. Melbourne, my alma mater, has held back, rather as wise and worried parents do. We mustn't spoil the boy, they may have said. For ages, he's been too big for his boots. He'll only get a larger swollen head, go overseas again and mock his roots. He's certainly no writer. It appears he hasn't had a grant for 20 years. I grew up in the age of Bakelite. Poland was on the front page of the Sun, with Hitler or Bing Crosby on the air. The wireless sang us safely off to school. Then to the pictures on a Friday night, we'd all stand up to help God Save the King. And Snow White trilled hey-ho, and sang her gnomes, while uncles fought and died on coral coasts, as we sat cosy in our lovely homes with Mr. Menzies and a million roasts. On Anzac Day at school, the chaplain droned the litany of Melbourne grammar dead. A pussy, pimpled prefect called Jeff Mears, in front of Goldsmith, one day loudly said, "Mum reckons Hitler had some good ideas." 2 bombs fell on Japan, but Doris Day, beneath her bobbing page boy, gaily sang, "My dreams are getting better all the time." Among the brick veneers, the bright voice rang. Meanwhile, at school assembly, the head, in mildewed cap and gown, once introduced a singer by the name of Harold Blair. He would, the head explained, just sing a few old Negro spirituals. Then into view the tenor stepped, his terror plain to see, our first and only Aborigine. I met him years later. Far from bitter, he hadn't even heard the whole school titter. This was an innocent age, and so was I. I only knew that pansies wore suede shoes. But who or what they were or what they did, and how 2 people could produce a kid, was utterly mysterious. Yet still I hear my blushing mother say, "Your father's giving you a book one day." But that day never came, nor did the book. And all too soon a sense of sin and sex as dawned the aqua age of Laminex. This was before Australians one and all lapped up the small print on the dunny wall. The parties started and the sparkling wine suffused me with a warm, persuasive glow. What courage and what love at last was mine. What lay ahead? How marvellous not to know. Gardenias, girls, and Garrick cigarettes. The square dance I was always getting lost in. The Allisons, the Gillians, and Jeanettes. At night, the steamed-up windows of the Austin. One thing was certain, and full well I knew, I'd have to make my mind up what to do. But how not break my anxious parents' hearts? Go to the uni, fool around at arts. I'd won a scholarship by some strange fluke, and this relieved the pressure, yet the place seemed teeming with such dull, conformist types, all keen to swat, all keen to get degrees, aspiring to something, but to what? To be the parents that they tried to please. In uniforms of pastel-hued twin sets, as boring as a shelf of fluffy toys, the Allisons, the Gillians, and Jeanettes walked hand in hand with dull, sports-coated boys. This dismal campus, it was very clear, would never spawn one interesting idea. Thus, as I dozed over my textbook's pages, I quietly resolved to be outrageous. My tutor was a lady, and I shocked her, conferring on myself the title Doctor. For Dr. Humphries was an artful pose, like someone in a spooky German silent. I grew long hair, affected dark-hued clothes, was sinister and mad, and sometimes violent. On stage, I reeked of supernatural vice. At home, I was, as now you see me, nice. Since then, on TV, theatres, and halls, I caused offence to academic wowsers. Dame Edna throws her gladdies at the stalls. Les Patterson's weapon is hidden in his trousers. But laughter can work wonders for stiff necks, employing muscles only used in sex. Obsessed with lifestyle, football, food and money, we could forget Australia is funny. Today, some public figures think it vital that they should sport an honorary title. True, Doctors Cairns and Hewson have degrees, but how they flaunt those dreary PhDs. No doubt next century we'll all be greeting with abject bows our emperor, Paul Keating. In Xenia's suit, with laurels on his head, his foes locked up or liberal or dead. His grovelling courtiers crawling on all fours or crushed beneath their statutory laws. Hail Paul I, with pose Napoleonic, as edifying as a high colonic. Vice President Turnbull may, dare we suppose, flash the insignia of the dark brown nose, while Dr. Hawke launches a new attack upon the person of Lord Conrad Black. Politically correct folk just might insist he change his name to Conrad White. Queensland's a state some people go quite Zanian. Your former leader thinks he's a Tasmanian. Tonight, I stand with old age gently quaking. Doctor once more, but doctor of your making. 40 years later, taking my degree, surrealistic in its irony. Another case where real life mimics art. So Brisbane thanks. Melbourne, eat out your heart. Thank you.